So, we're finally at the birth of our friend Temujin, the future Chinggis Khan. As touched on briefly before, as Hutula Khan's Khanate was about to be crushed by the Jin and the Tartars in 1161, Hutula's nephew Esigai stole a woman named Ulun from her Merkit husband. We're told that Ulun and her husband, Yeke Chilidu, brother of one of the most important Merkit chiefs, had just been married and were on their way back to Merkit territory when they were spotted by Esigai and his brothers. They chased off Yeke Chilidu, cornering Ulun alone on her cart. The custom of the steppes dictated that it was better for Yeke Chilidu to run and find a new wife, rather than to stand and die for certain, and the secret history of the Mongols depicts Ulun encouraging Yeke Chilidu to flee, although it was written over 60 years after this, and from a pro-Chinggisid point of view, so take that with a grain of salt. Either way, we can't say there was going to be little love between Esigai and his new wife. Esigai actually already had a wife by this point, named Zokagil, although there was some confusion over whether that was her name or not. With her, he already had two sons, Bekta and Belgutai, the oldest, Bekta, being about a year old or so when Temujin was born in 1162. Now, the customs of the tribes towards marriage in women don't translate too well to the 21st century. Polygamy was common, for example, and the eldest son could inherit his father's wives after his father's death, except for his own mother, of course. Wife and women stealing was also common, as Temujin and Borte, his wife, would fall victim to this, Borte actually being taken by the brother of Yeke Chilidu. Irony. Despite this, Mongol women, on a whole, actually tended to have more rights and respect than their counterparts in Europe, the Muslim world, and China. And Chinggis would actually make wife stealing illegal between Mongols and punishable by death. So, make of that what you will. As mentioned before, shortly after he took Ulun, Esigai returned with a captive Tartar chief named Temujin and found Ulun either about to give birth or shortly after she had already done so. Their eldest child was a boy clutching a blood clot the size of a knucklebone, as we're told by basically every single source that discusses his birth. A woman helping with the birth is said to have commented that this was an omen of future bloodshed or greatness. But really, those things go together. They would give the Tartar's name, Temujin, to the young boy. Temujin meant man of iron, or Iron Man, essentially blacksmith, although it's unlikely the original Temujin was a blacksmith. At this point, the Tartar, Temujin, disappears from history, either ransomed off or killed as sacrifice as his name was given to the young boy. If that was true, the child who became Chinggis Khan entered the world heralded by blood and clutching it in his hands, which is rather fitting. Temujin was most likely born 1162, the year of the horse according to the Chinese 12-year cycle. The Persian historian Rashid al-Din, possibly the most important writer on the Mongols, who actually lived under their rule in the early 14th century, wrote that Temujin's birth was in 1155, and some writers think it was as late as 1167. But these dates don't line up terribly well with the chronology of the rest of his life, so 1162 is the most commonly accepted one for this. Esigai and Ulun would have 4 more children, Khazar, Khashun, Temuj, and a daughter, Temulin. Temuj and Temulin would take their names from the same root word as Temujin, iron. The youngest child, Temulin, would only be a couple months old, and Temujin about 9 years old, when their father Esigai would be poisoned by Tartars, possibly as revenge for the capture of Temujin. This would lead to the abandonment of the 2 mothers and 7 children by the rest of the tribe. the first step in the career of Genghis Khan's imperial career. Yeah. So, anyways, to wrap it up, Temujin was born in 1162, somewhere on the Onan River in Mongolia. Only a couple months or a year after the disintegration of the Kamag Mongol Confederation. A little over 40 years later, the steppe tribes would be united as never before with the empire of Genghis Khan.